back to the class, everyone. The big raid post for the upcoming Endor raid just dropped. It is full of a lot of information, some of which I believe is going to be very good, and some of which we're going to have to wait and see. So let me first off start this by saying I am excited for what CG is trying to do here. I do not know if it's going to play out. I don't know if it's going to be enjoyable, but basically the main thing we need to understand about the upcoming raid is they are reinventing the wheel entirely with this. While we are going to be utilizing characters that we already have unlocked in game, such as our good friend Jedi Knight Luke here, as well as many others, they're going to interact differently with all the mechanics in the raid. It's not going to be the typical, all right, my characters have health and protection, I'm going to go hit the big monster, deal damage, get points, and call it a day. It's much more intricate than that. While there are some pieces that I think will be simple in the long run, the learning curve on this is going to be huge. So this video is probably not going to be all that long. I'm not going to go through every single little thing and kind of give a guesstimate of what I think is going to be the right way to do it. I think we really have to get in there, start testing things, utilize some of the bigger rosters in the community, and start figuring out and piecing together what's there. And I think this is going to be the fun for me, is going to be finding out what characters are specifically good in the raid and also good outside of it to kind of maximize efficiency and value. Because really, this raid is only staying here for about 6 to 8 months, and after it's gone, we have to stick with those relic levels. And if Tebow is the shining star of the raid, I'm not sure if I really even want to go down that road. But anyway, so there's kind of this long post about someone seeing Return of the Jedi, which is interesting. It's pretty cool, but we're not going to look at it right now. So what is different? And this is pretty much everything. How units are defeated, how you earn points, synergies, how mods impact the battle. That's a big thing. And that's actually one of the more practical takeaways that we're going to be able to grab here that I do want to talk about, and what your abilities do. So everyone's abilities are different. Your unit, your basics, your specials, all that comes around. There are a few rules, and this isn't too new to the raid system. For those of you who remember the challenge pit raid, it had a lot of moves or things like this too, where you just couldn't gain turn meter and stuff like that, and uniques are altered to fit the raid. So again, a whole lot going on. They do brief us on all the enemies we'll be facing. It's really just a collection of scout troopers, which I shouldn't be mad about that. That's very accurate to what the battle in episode 6 was Luke and Leia going after all the scout troopers, I guess with some Ewoks as well. So we have the commander, we have the normie, we have a shadow variant, which I don't remember that, but I'm sure that exists somewhere within the Star Wars lore. And then once we look at all these, we really do get what they mean by how this is different. So enraged, remove 40 stacks. So 40 stacks of damage. Again, this is very different. This has nothing to do with the game as we currently know it and how things function. 40 stacks of distract, side swipe, stacks of timber. It's all very universally revolving around how these stacks function. And again, we're not going to get into every little thing how that works, because quite frankly, it'd be pretty boring, and it's going to be more accessible to just get into the raid and start testing things out and then backing out when we can't figure things out. Now, this is interesting, and I think this is probably going to be good. This is how they're going to redo essentially the moveset of every character that is allowed into the raid. And I like this for two reasons. Number one, it is very simplistic. Everybody having the exact basic ability makes reinventing the wheel a lot easier when it all looks the same way, as well as having a lot of the specials. You'll notice that a lot of them swap places between special 1 and special 2. So being in each slot doesn't really give them any special ability. You'll see that some of them will have both of them. Some will just have one here. And then the other really big takeaway, and this, we already kind of knew this beforehand, but this really confirms it. Leia is given a new ultimate ability specifically cut out for the event, meaning that she is going to be the top dog. And that, I mean, again, that wasn't really news to anyone. We all had that kind of expectation, especially given how important Jabba is in the crate raid. While other teams can reach his level of effectiveness, he just does it so easily. And part of that has to do with the fact that he's a galactic legend, but a lot of the raid mechanics were kind of centered around him. And this is going to be very much a similar thing having to do with these abilities. So again, I think this is going to add a lot of depth, and it's going to be interesting because some of the combinations that we use to be able to get good scores in the raid really might not be dependent on a cohesive team of synergy, but rather wanting to make sure that you have a character that has these two abilities, a character that has these two abilities, and a character that has these two abilities. And there might be some mixing and matching amongst the various characters, despite the fact that they might not even share the same faction, because of how that mechanic is going to come into play here. So as we continue on and we kind of see that, as the crate raid had and even other raids, there are specific factions out there that are going to get extra abilities on top of everything that is going to give them a nice boost. And again, this might very well be something that we can kind of mix and match the characters in there. I don't know if everyone has kind of paid attention to this over a while or used the raid the same way that I have, but throwing in one random Hut Cartel with another faction for the Crate Dragon raid sometimes was really nice, because it was great to have one character that was just dedicated to specifically detonating all of the thermal packs or whatever they are to be able to cleanse all the debuffs. And that was a useful tool. We might see something like that again here with having these special abilities built in. It might be more beneficial to have one Rebel and two Ewoks than to just have a full 3 Ewok team with them all doing the same exact thing with their special faction ability. The only thing that I'm curious on this is, and I've actually asked Meathead, and we'll see if we get a response here, but Jedi Knight Luke right now is kind of getting left out in the cold, because as many people know and have pointed out over the years, our good friend Jedi Knight Luke does not have the Rebel tag, and he obviously does not have the Ewok or the Imperial tag either, so that kind of proves to be a problem. So I don't know if they're gonna let him borrow the Rebel tag in the same way that some other characters will borrow factions in specific scenarios, thinking of, you know, Dad Bob Boba under the Tusken Chieftain Omicron getting to have the Tusken tag. I don't know if he'll be able to borrow the Rebel tag. I'm assuming he wouldn't get the other two. Maybe he just gets stiffed. I don't know. I didn't see really any impressive abilities with him either, but again, we don't fully understand the raid as it is in a whole. Plus, what we're about to get to is going to be a big deal. So, affected by mods, and this is a little bit misleading, or maybe not even misleading, but worded incorrectly. All the stats that go into your character are now going to have different effects than they had before. And the reason why I think it's better to say that they're affected overall by stats and not by mods is because there are some stats in here that mods don't help you. Like, Health Steal is now going to have an extra effect, or rather a completely different effect than it would have in normal gameplay. Health Steal isn't really in mods, but that's kind of a minor point. A lot of these abilities, or not really, the stat conversion or whatever we want to call it, a lot of these are in mods, but they're also in other things. A lot of these are in leadership abilities, they're in uniques, they're in the base stats of a character. They might be even in stat sharing depending on who we are looking at. So the makeup of this overall, this is going to take time. I'm not going to right now prescribe, oh, because we need this means that Wicket is going to be the star of the show because he has really high physical crit chance, and constantly reducing allies cooldowns at the start of the turn is the key to the raid. I don't know that. I don't think any of us know that right now, but it is interesting to see who some of the winners or losers are going to be with this. And if this is anything like the normal gameplay, typically what's going to mean the most are the characters who can hit these really high-end level stuff. Like, I think of, this is kind of a weird example, but I think of Old Daka. You don't really want Old Daka to have a good split between health, protection, potency, tenacity, speed. You just really want her to have a ton of health to be able to excel at doing what she does. Chewbacca's kind of slimmer with tenacity. You don't really want a mix of crit damage and offense and protection and defense as well as tenacity. You just want him to not get dazed by gas. So I think we're going to see a similar effect in here with a lot of the characters, whether it be through modding or through their mastery gains or whatever it is. We're going to be looking for ones that have these high-end levels that are going to be more effective rather than having a 10% chance to do something. And another one of the probably real takeaways that we have here, and take this with a grain of salt, the two stats we have here that are not commonly farmed when farming mods and are quite often ignored by most is physical accuracy and physical crit avoidance. On our arrows in game, you can have several different primaries. 9 times out of 10, we are always going to opt for speed. There are going to be opportunities where health and offense are good, and even less than that, there are opportunities where crit avoidance and speed are good. I think this is gonna be different, and even if I'm entirely wrong about that, even if what those two stats are doing in the raid aren't all that good, I would rather not risk it. So what I'm saying is don't just go hunting for a really good accuracy mod or a really good crit avoidance mod, but maybe don't delete all of them. That's really all we're suggesting here right now before we have more data. If you keep coming across accuracy and critical avoidance primary aerials, don't just delete them. Wait and see. Let's see where we're at. If they ultimately, if like this right here ends up meaning nothing, then you can sell them for really no loss. If you don't have room, throw them on some random character that isn't using any mods right now. So yeah, there's a lot going on here when it comes to stats. Big takeaway is don't sell those. The rest of this, like we should have, like you should have some mods that have some crit chance. You should have some mods that have some crit damage and offense and armor and evasion. We can't get that. It's kind of similar in the health steal or potency and tenacity. So kind of to be determined there. Just don't delete all your accuracy mods, I guess is where we're going. Now, the Cadence update, there's really not a whole lot of news here. This is really just them updating on what they've already said, is that they are shifting from more of a 3-day to a 6-day cadence, assuming you are maxing out your tickets as a guild. I think this is really a good thing. I think this will help adjust for burnout. While I did really enjoy the Crate Dragon raid, there is the question of sometimes I just didn't have time for it. I'm just going in, I'm throwing a Hut Cartel, I'm getting my max score on that one team, and I'm done with it. This will, I think, allow more interaction. And for people who really do enjoy the raid and want to do it more, you can take 10 attempts trying to perfectly finesse whatever you're trying to do or testing different things out. Like, that opportunity is still there for those people. And this is probably worth mentioning as well. We're going to be allowed 8 attempts instead of 5. And this, if we cross-reference this with the amount of characters we need, there are very few characters that are actually going to be left out of the list. So I'm not saying relic any of them. In fact, we should have said that towards the beginning. Don't relic any characters based off this list, unless you're just relicing everything. That's great. We really want to see who is going to be good first. I think this is so much new information. To have an estimated guess is probably not that great, unless the character's just amazing. Then, you know, whatever. Like Leia, oh no, don't take Leia to relic 8. That surely will be bad. It's not bad. You can do that. There's a few other opportunities to do that. Then they talk about RNG, and they said that the main factors are going to be evasion, cooldown reduction, enemy targeting, which, as much as I hate evasion, that's kind of par for the course at this point. Not most of my fleet battles, but I've had several fleet battles that are just entirely decided because one pivotal moment there was an evasion, and that's RNG. Not a whole lot you can do about it. And enemy targeting is also a really big one. That one can actually be kind of fun depending on what you're trying to manipulate. And then as far as the economy goes, we're actually getting a boost. This is weird. So they are changing the cadence of the race as the rate as previously mentioned, which means they should also double all the currency. That just makes sense. That's just simple math. So that's exactly what they're doing with the MK1 and the MK3 into the new speeder bike raid. However, the MK2, and I don't know if this is like a math error, maybe someone missed something somewhere. Double of 5,500 is not 12,500. Like it's less than that. So I don't know. I don't know if we're just getting a freebie of more MK2. I guess cool. Even if you are doing the old crate raid without the MK3. Yeah, the MK3 is being taken out, but that's been, I mean, we've talked about that several different times. It's been confirmed several different times. So that's really not any new information. So that overall is the new raid without really talking about any of the mechanics at all, because I think it's still just too new. Takeaways are they're reinventing the wheel. Things are not what we seem. The best upgrades might not be the ones we expect, and especially don't go just selling all of your accuracy and crit avoidance arrows right now. They might be more useful than you're giving them credit for. And yeah, we'll see more when it comes. Until the next time, stay awesome.